Well, top of the morning to you, everyone. Welcome to Red Tool House. Today we are going to do some mud mitigation around our pig feeding area down here next to the road. And we're going to be utilizing some wood chips with the chipper, and hopefully one task will produce multiple benefits if we do things right. So come along. So if you're new to the channel, we raise large black Tamworth Cross hogs in what we call a pasture setting. It's a woodlot setting. West Virginia, of course, there's not a lot of wide open pasture, but woodlot, there's about 4 or 5 acres worth of pasture that they have access to. And we grow out certain litters once a year to be sold off as wholes and halves to our customers. Well, this time of year, since we're getting into the dormant season, we have a litter that's going to finish in January, and we're starting to move them into these sacrificial areas down here where I can at least control erosion a little bit better, and we're going to mitigate some of the mud that we have here. This time of year, hogs produce mud no matter where you feed them. So in this area, they formed a natural trough. I don't know if you can kind of see where the electric fence line is. They've humped up dirt. So it makes a natural trough, which of course holds water. But also this hillside, water comes out of these rocks. Again, it's West Virginia, so no matter where you run into bedrock exposed, water comes out from underneath it. So there's always this water element coming out. I feed them here because it's flat, it's right by my road. If I go higher on the hill, if it's really muddy or really icy, then it's a little tricky to do at times in the winter. So to mitigate this mud, we're going to bring in a whole bunch of big, new, fresh wood chips. And you may be wondering, well, wait a minute, Troy, isn't there a huge pile of wood chips right down there behind your trailer? Yes, there are. That's, oh my goodness, that's probably 8 truckloads 2 years ago. But those have composted so well that those are going as top dressing for the garden. They're going to be going to other places where we're going to grow veg, and I don't want to just throw them in here. Bigger chips, more carbon, of course, will last longer in all this mud mixture. So the benefit, of course, is chipping up some stuff, some brush that we need to get out of the way, some road areas we need to open up. Obviously mitigating the mud, but then maybe this time next year, then I could come in and scoop out a lot of those wood chips. They've broken down, they've mingled well with the mud, with the pig poop, with the urine, and we're actually building some soil there. So just a little pig tip here, if you've got a feeder that you keep in a certain area X amount of time, make sure there's rocks around it. As you see, the pigs aggressively fight for kind of hoarding the food themselves. They step on those rocks and it helps wear their hooves down. So you don't have to do any hoof trimming. And here in West Virginia, where they're constantly climbing hills, not a big issue. But for you flatlanders, that may be a nice tip to look at. Concrete, gravel, large stone, help wear those hooves down. All right, so in an attempt to try to stack some function here and making more wood chips, this section here where my road goes up the hill has always been overgrown with a lot of small saplings. You can see behind me, there's just so much of them. And in fact, this one beech tree right here that's still green and leafy, always whacks me in the face when I'm on my tractor. So he's going to be the first one to go in the chipper. But we're going to thin some of this out because we want this road to be able to dry out a little bit better, especially during the winter time. It gets pretty slick, and we'll be skidding a lot of logs here in the next several months this way. So we give this opportunity to dry out a little bit, and of course make some wood chips. So here we go. All right, that got it filled up. Going to use these last little red maples here to fill up the trailer, I believe. You can see you got a pretty good clear opening there. Some sunlight, breeze coming through, very nice. One little tip, and I know you guys have commented about, hey, you really need an in-feed roller on your chipper. No doubt. You add a couple $1,000s more and you'd have one. It'd be super sexy right there, you know what I'm saying? But if you don't have an in-feed roller and you want to maximize your time, then the really small stuff, the green, this, I would set that aside and let it get, let it lose its leaves, let it become a little more brittle. Because when they have these crazy forks, some of these ironwood trees, beeches, they have real crazy forks, that's what gets hung up. Watch when I throw these maples in, they almost look like javelins, just straight poles. And when you got gravity, figure that wheel spin drawing more in, and it does fine. Hello, boys. All right, so that's a pretty decent load. Unfortunately, this is not a hydraulic dump, so we're gonna have to go unload it by hand. Now I gotta get 2 vehicles back to the barn. So take the side-by-side first and then walk back. All right, so I guess I probably should address this just in case it shows up in the edit. I don't know if you guys saw that one big limb come up and cock me right in the face as it got bound up in the chipper, but it cracked me right here. I thought it'd knock some teeth out, but it didn't. So if it swells up in the next video or it's bruised, then I wanted to go ahead and explain that, because you guys may think Kelly took a shot at me for making the fuzz lip comment a couple videos back. And I would share that little handy jig with you had it not been for the fact that I think somebody with fuzz lips ran off with it. And no, I'm not talking about Kelly. Wasn't the case. All right, so now we'll see if we can toss some chips to some pigs here and see how they respond. You'd think they were on fire as much as they're squealing. All right, so those wood chips went about that far, as you see, and that was some pretty deep mud, and the pigs are trampling that in, so that'll get mixed in. We'll probably have to add more throughout the next month or so. But one additional benefit I didn't expect or didn't even think about is with all this beech limb that I shredded up, that they love that. They love beech leaves. They love the tender shoots of the limbs, and the beech have not gone dormant yet here. So they're probably gonna be down here snacking all day. Probably eat every wood chip. I'll come down tomorrow, there won't be a single wood chip here. Yeah. But the one thing, let's see if I can do this without getting hit by the fence. The one thing I like about that Titan chipper is the size of the chips it makes. So you can see, when you put some bigger stock in there, it really chips up some big stuff. Now, not the greatest if you're looking for some top dressing for your garden, but when it comes to some of these applications here, I really like the big chips. It allows you to have some bigger displacement, especially when we're looking at mud mitigation, and be able to have more surface area, of course, to keep from sinking in. And the pigs think I've got treats in my pocket, so they're hanging out here. My knee, you little jerk. Okay. If you want to know more about that Titan 6-inch chipper, we actually did a full video review of it when we first got it. I've had it for a year or two now, and it's been working fine. You know, shear pins every once in a while. But there's also put a link to Titan that is an affiliate link, so if you happen to purchase anything from Titan, of course, then that helps support our channel. I think for the size and for the price, I think it's an adequate chipper. Again, if you want to invest a couple more $1,000 for an auto feed, then just make sure your tractor has the ability to run those. Well, there's rain forecasted this afternoon. Actually, it was forecasted for about right now, and I can see it coming over the western ridge there. So I think it's time to put some equipment away. If you all have not subscribed yet, consider subscribing. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you're new to the channel, some projects that we're working on right now that we're covering in video is of course making lumber with our sawmill to finish our chicken church, our backyard coop, to start working on our sawmill shed, and of course building our off-grid retreat with cabins, bathhouse, and all that stuff on the back part of the property. And of course our animal husbandry stuff that we do with pigs and chickens and so forth. All right, take care everybody.